and my assistant. We all know that one should start each day with a healthy breakfast. And my send-off breakfast for the day that I was getting on the plane was this from at Charlie Brown 2 in Boonville. It's a great place to have breakfast, or any meal. And the flight, this is an interesting picture of the flight. I wish it was that short, to and from, and I wish it was right from Syracuse to Kilimanjaro, but there were stops at JFK and Amsterdam, and then Kilimanjaro. And the stops were, the flights were long. I'm not good at sitting in someplace for a long time, and since I was on the window seat, I had people moving. And when you get to the airport, the connecting flights were 4, 5, 6 hours away, and sitting was not an option. So the laps around the terminals were boring after a while. And there was only so much I could drink.
Water. Yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah. That's a picture. Speaking about having a drink, that's a picture of Maggie and I at one of the airports. And everybody's happy and fresh, ready to go. I know Maggie through the Tramp and Trail Hiking Club. We're members of that club. The next few pictures are preparations for the trek. We stayed at Mount Meru Hotel. Justin and Ernest, the front picture is Ernest, and then you'll see Justin later on. But they went over the map, the route that we were going to use. They went over kinds of things like what we needed. There was a day where the morning before we left, they came to our individual rooms and they checked all our equipment to make sure we had the right equipment. If you didn't have the right equipment, I don't know what was going to happen, but fortunately we all had it. They also went over the medication. Diamox is a pill that people take to help acclimate. What it does, it keeps a person from getting headaches. Some of the side effects of that drug are diarrhea, lack of appetite, both of which aren't nice to have on a hike. So I did not take Diamox. And Justin told me this many people make it to the top who don't take it. And I had made up my mind that I wasn't going to take it before I left. My body was going to get there, or it wasn't. And my motto has always been, summiting is optional, getting back is mandatory. So, and I knew that nobody was going to wait for me if I couldn't go. But fortunately, I was able to go. Looking on was Joel and Emmett. They're Justin, the taller one, and Ernest. Both have 19 and 20 years experience hiking the mountain. One was 270 times, and the other one's about 230. So they started off as porters. When they were 20s, they were in, one's 40, the other's 39. Notice the smiles. Remember that. And we're still smiling. We're going to get on the van to go up to Kilimanjaro National Park. The picture with the chain, that is the gate to get into Kilimanjaro National Park. Those two girls, one is about 12, the other's like 13. They live locally in the area, and they have some wood. They're carrying wood. We don't think they go to school. And they're, Justin is signing us in. That's self-explanatory, I guess. Here we are at Landrosoi, I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing it. I'm a little nervous. Anyhow, that's a gate. This is a gate where, what's significant about this gate is we are off the first bus, and the porters are pairing up with the bags and equipment that they're going to bring up the mountain. And there on the left is one of the waterproof bags that is filled with food, camping equipment, various things like that, personal items for us. And there's a scale of which they weigh the bag, and if it's over a certain number of pounds, I think it's 40 or 33, and that plus their own. They can't carry more than 40 pounds. So things come out, or things are put in. And I think that's a picture of a pineapple. Then this is the van that they load up that goes from this gate to Lamosha Glades Gate, where we'll start our hike. Washing our hands is mandatory, and that's how we had our hands before meals. That's a typical table that we had lunch at. We all, except for this place and one other place, we always had a dining tent that we sat in. There, porters were getting kitchen stuff ready. That's mostly kitchen stuff, because we were going to have lunch before we left. It's about 12:30 in the afternoon. There's an example of how the porters carry. We had probably 30 porters for the 5 of us, and they carried everything that we didn't have to. And our day pack had 3 liters of water, and then raincoat, rain pants, change of socks, our own personal small first aid packet, and a few other items that we might need during the day. But our tents, our toiletries, our extra clothing, they carried in bags like that. This is at the first campsite. It's called Forest Campsite. And it's known as Mti Makumbua. It means, in Swahili, it means big tree. And on the left, you can see the big tree. The tents that we slept in, those are examples of the tents that we slept in, and the porters, and they carried all that, the tent. And then the green tent is the toilet tent that we had specifically for private use. That was our use. Porters used the outhouses that were in each campsite. And their outhouses aren't like ours here. They're a little different. There's an example of, on the left is the tent that I had. There's 2 small mattresses, so it was about that thick, a sleeping bag, a 4 cover. It was a walk-in, stand-up walk-in and walk out. That animal is the only wild animal we saw. It's known as a blue monkey. That was it. First day, first camp, and that was it. Now we're headed for our first full day of hiking. And this, we're going to Shira 1 campsite. It's going to be a 5-mile hike, about 200-foot elevation gain, and you can see how the trail is a little different than earlier. It's narrower. It's in the rainforest, and you get an idea of us going up. Okay. That is lunch on that truck. And that's the only picture of food that I took. And I'm noted for putting breakfast on my Facebook page. And I'm sorry that I didn't do that. But to let you know, meals were plentiful. Every meal, there was a lot of food. Breakfast had porridge, eggs, toast, sausage, fruits like pineapple, melon, passion fruit, juice, coffee, tea, and as much as you wanted. Lunch was always carbohydrate, like with pasta or sandwiches. There was always fruits and vegetables and juices. Suppers were the same. At the end of each day at hiking, we had popcorn and cookies and tea before we had supper. And that plant on the right is called a red hook. That's the neatest plant I saw. And it was towards the end of the rainforest. Now, what do you notice about two things in this picture? What do you notice? And if you,
smiling.
no smiling, yes. And this is after one day of hiking.
Smiling?
Yeah, well, a little bit, yeah. Oh, come on, we had, yes, let's go. We're fresh. So after a little bit, we're tired. That's Kilimanjaro in the back. The other thing now is you can tell it's the end of the day because what they asked us to bring were camp shoes. And it's really neat after a number of hours and miles hiking to get your hiking boots off and put camp shoes on. It was, I said, why am I going to bring these? But it was good. It was great to get them off, the boots off. This is day 3, and we're on our way to Moya campsite. We did have just rain, and I'm glad that I had my perfect rain gear, my raincoat and pants, because trekking through along the trail was absolutely no problem. I was dry. Everybody else was too. And that's an area, you can see how we're out of the rainforest and we're sort of in the moorland. And we are going, that was going to be a 6.5 mile hike in the rain. And we were going to get up to 13,700 feet. Okay, a look at Kilimanjaro. If you look to the right, that side there, that's where we're headed. We're going to be headed out that way. So we go around. And on our way to Moya Camp, on the top left, that is called Old Man's Beard. And you've heard of Spanish moss. And it's like Spanish moss. And if you go to Montana and hike in Montana, you'll see the same type of moss growing from trees, and it's known as goat's beard, because it has that line. The picture doesn't give it justice because in the breeze, it's waving, it's blowing around. It looks cool. That's Simba Cave. And it used to be Simba Cave campsite. Simba is Swahili for lion, so you have the extent of my Swahili already. The lions don't come over anymore from, I think it's Kenya or Nairobi, I can't remember which, but that's where they used to hang out. Okay, and then we finally got to the campsite, and I find that this campsite with the cairns on top was spiritual to me. It was majestic, but for me it was even more spiritual. I build cairns, and I know cairns and the nunchucks through the Inuits, and I've been known to be on the trail and stuff and build them, and I've done it for people's yards and gardens and stuff. So to see all of them was really neat for me. And they were looking down. So you're in I'll show you eventually, we'll have a picture of where the camp is, and then we're up top. But these cairns were around us. It's real beautiful. That is a picture of the camp as we're leaving the next day. And we're headed to Barako Camp. You'll notice that they ask you not to litter. And where humans go, there's litter. Now, I'm not talking about cans and bottles, big pieces of paper, but there are things. Somebody's eating a candy bar, they rip it open, and the wrapper might fall on the ground. We're headed towards Lava Tower on our way to Barako campsite, and part of this here, we went up. We had a climb of a few thousand feet, but in actuality, from Moya Camp to Barako Camp, we dropped 800 feet. This is some of little bit of a challenging hike through the that little pass. Next picture has lava rock, a lava tower. It was pretty foggy then. We had lunch here, and when we got there, it was much cloudier. As we were leaving, the picture on the left shows how it started clearing up, and we were going to head down to Baracco campsite. Now, this is Baracco campsite. This is the first sunny day we had. First 3 days were rain and mist, cloudy. But the nice thing about the rain, mist, and clouds, being in the rainforest, the temperature was lower. So it wasn't the 80s and 90s. It was much more comfortable. And now you didn't sweat. There was much sweating at all. That's why I could keep the same clothes on for 3 days. Mostly everybody else. So anyhow, you'll notice at my feet there is a solar panel. That was part of one of the things that a porter had to carry. And they carried it outside the pack, so even on cloudy days there was some power. And that's how we recharged our phones. And my phone had to, that's how I took pictures with my phone. If you look at 12 o'clock over the top of my head, you see that wall. That's Baracco wall, and that's what we got to scale the next day. It's cool. There's a surrounding area of Baracco camp. In the morning, there's a picture of Kilimanjaro. Those are pictures of Kilimanjaro. And there we are going up Baracco Wall, the ascent. It was only a 3-mile hike and less than 200-foot gain in elevation between where we're leaving Baracco campsite to Karanga Valley campsite. Now, the valley is a misnomer. We are not in the valley. That's what they call it. The valley was much lower. So, and I'd like to point out that I've had some experience hiking. Nothing on this hike was any more challenging than anything I had ever hiked. Grand Canyon was much more challenging. Montana, we had ledges with snow and ice that were that wide. Mount Washington was harder to ascend. Katahdin in Maine, which was harder to ascend. So for me, personally, this was what I would term a moderate hike. Every day was just a moderate, easy walk. I'd never had any difficulties. I never had an issue with confidence or skill level. And I don't think anybody else did. If they did, they didn't say so. And I thought this was amazing going up. You can see also how the porters have things balanced on their head. They do not have trekking poles. In fact, going up here, trekking poles were useless. You had to go hands and foot. And it's not hard. You just reach up a rock and you keep close steps. You don't take long, wide steps because you'll lose balance. But the porters can go up with balancing stuff on their head and climb up like this, having their hands close to their body and just walking up. But that's experience too. That's Emmett getting through one of the narrower places. This is a picture of Barafu. I'm sorry, of where am I? Okay. Karanga Valley Camp. We got there, it's sort of sunset. There is a great picture of Kilimanjaro, and after I took the picture, I was looking at it, I saw that the toilet tent's there. So just, you know, avoid that if you can. We are now headed to Barafu Camp. That's the trail that we're going to use. And not everybody stayed together. One of the neat things about this is that, and this is how it had to happen, we would get up probably 6 o'clock 5:30, 6 o'clock. We would have a bowl to wash our face with, of warm water. We would have coffee, and then you get dressed. You get together, you got what you were going to take that day in your day pack. So you made sure you had water, you made sure you had gloves, colder, you had your winter jacket or a warmer jacket. Because what would happen during breakfast, the porters would come and take your stuff out, trekking poles in your day pack, and they would break your tent down. And they would be packing everything. And we would leave maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock. The porters are still working on putting stuff together, and we're trekking along. Within an hour, they passed us. They were just whipping right by us. I mean, they were like running almost. Because they had to get to the lunch spot and set up things for lunch. The others that didn't have to go to the lunch spot went right to the next camp. So by the time we got to a camp, tents were set up, everything was set, but we just had to relax. And you pay for that. Now don't get me wrong, we paid for this. And it was good, I like that. I hate camping, I hate it. I do not like camping at all. So I did practice before I left camping. I took a bike ride from Buffalo to Albany, and it was camping. So I sort of got used to it. I put up with it, but I'm not out for camping. I wanted a hike. I would have taken anything other than camping on the way, but we didn't have that. All right, so now we're going to a Barafu campsite, and that's a place where a lot of hikers go, because that's an ascent point, one of the main ascent points. From Barafu, people will ascend, most people, because they're on shorter hiking trips than we are. They ascend at night and they get to the top of the mountain around midnight. We were fortunate we were going to go in the daylight. And this is what you now have. This is all lava, cairns that are scattered. They're not cairns set up that you follow. As like out here, you would follow the cairns. Mount Washington, you would follow them up. Here, they're just built. And it's nothing but, you're walking on, for the most part, lava rocks, stones, dust, scree, which is just loose stones. And you're uphill. You're going uphill, and it's painless. It is not hard at all. That top, the picture on the top, that mountain is Mount Meru out in Arusha, which is across the street from the hotel we stayed at. I mean, not literally across, but within a few miles. So we are more than a day's drive from Arusha, which is the largest city, maybe 500,000 people. And because you're above the clouds, or a little bit above the clouds. We're at Barafu Camp, Barafu Hut Camp. This is like one of the pictures of all the different campers. And you'll notice something about camping from I think it was Baracco Wall, all the next 4 days of camping, your tent was on a pitch. So when they set the tent up, and since they can't put stakes in the ground, they ground the tent's ropes on the lava rocks, so that holds them down, or supposed to. Anyhow, you're on a pitch. I share a tent by myself. So what I try to do is I try to take my 2 bags. I had 2 bags with my personal stuff in that I would, like extra clothes, my socks, my dirty stuff plus my clean stuff. And I would put them at the foot of the, my sleeping bag, but also which was the entrance into the tent. And I put it off to the right, so that I didn't slide all the way down out. But you would slide, I mean, you'd get up. So I take my glasses off, and I'd have them up there, and my night light, because drinking 3 quarts of water, 3 liters of water during the day, you don't sweat it out, but it does come out. So getting up 3 or 4 times during the night and getting a headlamp on and going to the toilet, it's just a pain in the butt. But when you slide down and you reach up, where the heck did I put that? And you know, there's one of the reasons why I don't like camping. But I was able to put up with it. And that's not Kilimanjaro. That is Shira Cathedral. Kilimanjaro has 3 different mountains: Shira, Castle, Manawatsa, and Kimbo. Kimbo is where we're going. Kimbo means surprise. And it was discovered, the person who discovered it had been up to Cathedral, the other mountain, the other peak. And those were formed millions of years ago because Kilimanjaro exploded, you know, the volcanoes. So anyhow, they were walking down and all of a sudden the clouds cleared and Kimbo was there. And that's where we're going to go. That is on the way up to Stella Point. That's lunch. You can see some snow on the top right picture. And that's about all we had for snow. We were not, there's one place we walked through snow, but going up we walked through no snow at all. And it is cool, definitely cool. I don't remember the temperature, but it was single digits. It's sunny, and I didn't feel cold. I had the right equipment all the time. And there we are at the top. Obviously, I'm pretty happy. I was able to carry up the, that's what's called a license plate, just a plastic piece that I brought up from the VFW post, obviously, in Boonville, and to let Boonville know they'd been up there. And that's at the end, that's Yahura Peak. We're at 19,000. I'm sorry, 19,341 feet. And from Stella Point to there was extremely emotional for me. And it wasn't a long distance, but I cried. And it was such an emotional relief for me because I beat the odds on Diamox. I carried up that license plate. I had my father's dog tag, and my father had died the day after Christmas 2015, and he was at my sister's house Christmas Day. He had a great time. I had talked to him Christmas night, and he's told my sisters that he was living vicariously through me on this hike. So it was cool. There's a picture of his dog tag and mine in Kilimanjaro. And then, of course, here we are celebrating. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. We're happy. We are smiling again. That was really neat. And that was the end of whatever was easy. The most difficult part is coming up. Go ahead, you know, take your time. There, we did go down. We stayed in Crater campsite. So we descended about 700 feet into the crater, and there was snow. Well, I forgot my crampons. So I got the butt slide down about 500 feet. It's awesome. If you've never done it, you got to go out and do it. You know, it's just a lot of fun. But make sure it's steep hill. Try to stay away from the trees and rocks. But outside of that, it's a lot of fun. But there we are the next morning walking out of Crater Camp. And it was easy until we went downhill. I don't know if we have that angle. Okay, we don't. Okay. Well, you go 8,000 feet down in 8 miles, and you go down. You're going the angle is very, very sharp. And what happens is your quads are taking a beating. That's the only thing that hurts. And after a while, I couldn't walk by myself anymore. So Christopher took my bag and helped me. Shortly after this, Ernest came along and had the other side of me. Out of the 5 of us, 3 of us needed assistance. And that was the toughest part. The 8th day, and then descending on the 9th day, which was only a half a day. So I wasn't happy. And one of the things, 2 things I tried to do to keep myself from not feeling the pain was to count backwards to 200. So I'd get to like 167, 160, oh shit, I can't remember the number. I have to go all the way back and start. Because I'd lose count because the pain, sometimes the pain was, I'd stop and my legs would cramp. And then I also thought of, wow, I can't wait till I get back to Boonville. I'm going to be snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, alpine skiing. Well, that didn't work. And the counting didn't always work. I don't know if I ever get to 0. But anyhow. And there we are. See how happy I am? I was glad to be done. We had an award ceremony. It's a neat certificate they give you. Because I was the oldest, I was the last to get it. It was neat. A group picture of everyone. And I think it's a rewarding treat at the end here. Kilimanjaro. Which is a good beer, by the way. If you go to Tanzania, I would suggest having one. So that's basically it. That's